Hey guys, this is Stephanie and I'm Stacks on Stacks on Stacks. Today I'm coming to you with one of my favorite videos to make, best books I read last year. I know this video is a tiny bit late, but I have this little thing called real life. I get busy. I'm sure you understand. I am getting this out as soon as I can though, and I'm so excited to talk about these books. So I have a small honorable mention list, and then I have a top, I think 9 is what I have. And my top 9 aren't in a specific order. I kind of have a chunk of the bottom 5 and then the top 4, but those top 4 really are all like my favorite reads. So I'm gonna get into those. First of all, my honorable mentions, I have 2 Christina Laurens on there that I read last year. I read In a Holidays and The Honey Don't List, which I really liked both of these. I think I graded both of them like a 4.5, maybe a 5. Of the 2, I think I liked this one a little bit better. It just was a funnier premise. This was a little more of a Groundhogsy thing, which I did enjoy as well, to be honest. I enjoyed. It's super close. They're both very fun, very good. Chiclets, like romancy books, but with a little extra. So this one, like I said, has like a Groundhog's Day vibe to it. So a girl is repeating the same set of days over and over around the holidays and trying to learn to make the right decision. And the universe just keeps resetting it every time when she doesn't. And then this one kind of follows a fictional family that is kind of like the Magnolia people whose names I never remember. Gaines, Chip and somebody Gaines. And it's like a fictional version of them. And in the fictional version of them, they do not like each other. It is not a good marriage. It doesn't go well, but when the cameras are on, they're smiling, and they just wrote a book and they have a book tour, and it focuses on their 2 assistants who have to deal with them and then try and deal with the other and all that kind of stuff. So it is pretty funny. And of course there's a little romance to it, but I think I enjoyed this one and the premise of it just a little bit better, but they're both good. Another honorable mention is Before the Devil Breaks You by Libba Bray, which is the 3rd in the Diviner series. I still need to finish the 4th one. I got like halfway through it and then I set it down. Yet another great, kind of scary, Steph thinks it's scary, read, but just so wonderfully written in this world where we have kind of superheroes, humans with superpowers in the 20s in New York, but they are not like glorified. They are like persecuted, and they are also called diviners, and they're really trying to help, but it's not going well. But it's the 3rd book, so I can't talk too much about that one. Next one I'm going to talk about is Aurora Burning, and that is by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. I think I gave this one 5 stars. Really, really loved it. It is the sequel to Aurora Rising, which I read this one in 2019. I read this one in 2020. Loved these books. Can't talk about a lot because it's a sequel, but we kind of follow a girl who's like in hyperstasis for like 300 years and gets stumbled upon and found by some like cadets. This is a YA sci-fi book, and it kind of sparks a bit of a rebellion / adventure for said cadets. It's pretty great. Another one is American Royals and Majesty. I'll put them both here. I have American Royals. I just think I must have loaned it to somebody because I can't find it right now. I think I gave both of these like a 4.5 or a 5 stars as well. Loved these. This is like a historical fiction, but the fictional part is what if they would have set up a monarchy instead of a democracy at the beginning of setting up the United States. So George Washington was king, not presidente. So a whole different world, and we are beginning to crown our first queen, like in the nowadays from this lineage, and she'll be the first female ruler ever over the United States of America. And of course she's like 20 and 21, and you know, YA shenanigans ensue. This is the same author. This is Catherine McGee, who did The 1000th Floor, and I loved that series, and I'm loving this series. I'm loving it. Didn't make the list, but I'm loving it. And the last honorable mention is Pride and Prejudice and Other Flavors by Sonali Deb. I loved this one. This is a Pride and Prejudice retelling, bit of a gender swap as well. So our Darcy character, our Proud character, is female, and our Elizabeth character is male. And our Darcy character, she is of Indian descent. Like, she's American, but her parents are Indian from India. And the Elizabeth character is half black and from England. So they both have like very, very different upbringings, different views on the world, things like that. Which was another great twist to have in the already great Pride and Prejudice story. I loved the writing. I loved pretty much everything about this. So I will be reading more from this author. I have the Persuasion one, and I think the Sense and Sensibility one comes out this year, and I'm going to want to read that because I liked it. It didn't quite make my top 9 list, but these were really close. Like, they were really good. Okay, so I'm first going to talk about the 5 on the bottom half, and then I'll get to the 4 in the top half. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Where the Crawdads Sing by... I'm not remembering, but it's right here. And I think I gave this one 5 stars. I'm pretty sure I gave all of these top 9 5 stars. I really liked this one. This was a buddy read with a friend of mine, and this is a story about a girl who kind of grows up in the marshes in North Carolina, and she kind of raises herself. She didn't have a great family life anyway, so she's kind of off and raising herself, and adventures and things that happen with her. It's a really beautiful story. It's kind of a hard story to read sometimes. And it kind of has like a present day, and then you flash back to her, and then a present day, and there's an investigation going on because there's been a murder and we don't know what's going on with it. So it's a really good story, good mystery, good historical fiction, good story of an independent woman. It's good. It's good. Next on the list is Meg, Jo, Beth, Amy. This is a graphic novel, and I will probably buy this at some point because I really liked it. I actually bought it for my niece for Christmas because I thought she'd love it, and she did. This is a Little Women graphic novel, modern day retelling with some diversity in there. I really felt like the story hit the nail on the head. My only complaint about the story, and I don't even think I downgraded it because of this complaint, is that they did the whole thing in a year. The story of Little Women takes place over the course of like, I don't know, like 10 years, like a chunk of time. And what's so beautiful about it is you watch these women evolve, you watch their relationships evolve, you watch them grow up and make decisions and get jobs and get married and have children. You watch all of this happen over the course of 10 years, and they condensed it into one. And you lose a lot of plot points when you condense that much. Like, there are things that just can't happen. Like, you can't grow that much in a year, not realistically. You can in 10, but one, it's a little bit difficult. So there were some plot points there that I felt like they needed the time to ruminate. Couldn't do that within a year. But then there were a lot of other things that I really liked. Like, I really did like how they modernized so much of it. So the father was away at war overseas. They got to talk through emails and like FaceTime and stuff like that, and I loved that. I loved it that it was actually a blended family. Jo came into the marriage with her father. Meg came in, no, flip that. Meg came into the marriage with her father. Jo came into the marriage with her mother, and then they had Beth and Amy together. And I loved that too. There was a lot about this I loved. There was a lot about this that I loved more than I didn't. Hence why I think I gave it 5 stars, and why it is on my list of the best books I read last year. So if you want a good graphic novel that's an update of a classic, this hits all the points. All the points. I loved that one. Oh, okay. Next is Sourdough by Robin Sloan. And though this is a really pretty book, and it actually is like textured too, I'm going to put it down because when I hold it back here, you can't see it. It's white. So I really liked this book by Robin Sloan. I did learn that Robin Sloan is a dude, and I read the whole book thinking it was a woman because he writes women really well. The main character is female, and she's wonderfully written. Now, this one was actually on my surprising reads, so you might see it over there as well. But our main character is Lois, and she's kind of like a tech computer programming person. She programs stuff with robots. That's all I got. And she doesn't hate her job. She doesn't love it. It's kind of a and she moves out to California for this job, and she hasn't really connected with any humans. Like, she works with people, but there are a lot of tech people who don't have a lot of social skills per se, so she has had a hard time connecting with them. So she finally connects with somebody who is a delivery driver for a restaurant. One day she gets a flyer on her doorstep from a mosque restaurant, which I think is Middle Eastern food, and she orders spicy #1, and it comes with whatever spicy number 1 is, and a side of sourdough. And she begins to have a relationship, because she orders it like every night, with her delivery driver, like an appropriate relationship. And then after, I don't know, a few months or so, the delivery driver comes to her and he's like, they're closing us down, we're getting deported. And she was like, oh no, like, this is the highlight of my day. How sad is that? And then him and his brother come back and they're like, we are going to give you, Lois, special customer number 1, our starter for our sourdough. And she's like, yeah, I don't cook. And they're like, well, that's okay, anybody can make sourdough. And she's like, literally never turned my oven on in my apartment. So they teach her how to make sourdough, and then they leave the country. And she does correspond with them by email, I think. And so now she has the starter, and she has to make sourdough, and she's learned to make sourdough, and it's amazing and it's good. And she's starting to find joy in her life from making sourdough, of all things. And this book made me so hungry. So if you're going to read this, and I recommend reading it because it's a great, simple read, good story, just have some snacks on hand, something healthy, because all I wanted to do was eat bread for like a week after I read this book. And I'm not a huge bread person, but boy howdy, I wanted to eat the bread. It was so cute. It was such a good book. It was such a good read. I will read more by Robin Sloan. Absolutely. The next one I have is Paralet and House by Agatha Christie. This was a book club pick and I loved it. It's yet another wonderful Christie. This one is a Poirot, where we have a character who doesn't really hire him, but he's around and notices that all of these weird accidents are happening to her and concludes that somebody's trying to kill you. And she's like, no, why would anybody kill me? I'm nobody. I'm nothing. To find out that she's actually worth a lot of money. And if she dies, who gets the money? And as Poirot starts digging deeper into all this, more attempts on her life start to happen. And you got to read the book to find out the rest. It was an Agatha Christie. One of the only ones I read last year. I didn't read a lot of them, and I loved it. Number 5 is going to be the only one I have. It's going to be all 3 of the Dash and Lily's. Mind the Gap, this one, and the first one, which is called Dash and Lily's Book of Dares. But I only own this one, so this is what you get to look at. By Rachel Cohen and David Levinson. I loved these books. All 3 of these were the cutest thing in the world. Lily is so cute. Lily reminds me of my niece. I have a niece who, I think she just had a birthday a couple weeks ago, so she's 15 now. She is optimistic and sweet and chatty and hilarious and a little bit nutty in such a good way. And that's Lily. That's my niece Avery. That's Lily. It's fantastic. So I really enjoyed this. And it's a story of 2 people who kind of meet through a book in a bookshop where one person is daring another person to do something, and they find places. This is in New York City, so big city. They find places to return the book so that they can keep daring each other, keep this relationship going. And it's sweet and it's cute and it's not something I've ever read before. And there are 3 of them. I love them. If they write more, I will be reading them. Okay, top 4 time. So these top 4 are not in any particular order. Okay, let's just start with that right now. I'm going to start with the one I don't have. I must have loaned it to somebody, because I own it and I love it. And that is Fountains of Silence by Ruta Sipetis. I'll put a picture here. I loved this book. This one takes place just after the Spanish Civil War. It's cold down here, guys. The Spanish Civil War in like the 1950s, I think. And we are following a guy who's visiting, a young guy's like 19-ish, visiting with his parents. He starts to have a friendship with a girl who's like a maid, kind of a step up from a maid. Like, she speaks English, and she's kind of in charge of making sure not just that the room is clean, but that they have everything they need and stuff, and recommendations for like places to go if you need a hat made or whatever. It starts out as just a relationship, and then he starts to learn more about her culture and about this Civil War and how that's not okay, and things that have happened to her. And you see a beautiful relationship, friendship bloom, and in a not safe time. And Ruta Sipetis just knows how to write characters so you love them. And this is a sweet story. It's not like romantic, it's sweet and it's good and it's kind, and I loved this so much. I kind of want to reread it just talking about it. So this was a 5-star, one of the best books I read last year. So if you're looking for a great historical fiction, it's YA, so it's also a pretty quick read. That's sweet. This is the one. The next one I have is a sci-fi. I just realized these top 4, I mean, they're all fiction because, come on, it's me, but they're all like different genres. Look at that. Scythe by Neil Shusterman. I never did get to the second and the third one. I really need to because I loved this one. This is in a world where like all diseases and everything have been cured, and to control the population of the world, we have scythes who go and kill people to keep the population balance even. And you're basically looking through the eyes of one specific scythe who's training two people to become scythes. You kind of learn his psyche, how methodical he is about it, how it's not just like random, you stole my parking spot, dead. You know, it's very thought out, like, okay, well, in the past, this many people would die of drowning accidents. These people swim. These are, was it male or female? What is it? Okay, it's going to be this person and they're going to die. And they'll like let you get your stuff in order. They'll give you like, I don't know, 10 minutes or something, which is not a lot of time. And then they kill you. It's kind of a dark premise. It's actually a very dark premise, but I liked this story. Now, you can't think too hard about it. There were people in the book club who didn't like it because they were like, it doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. And I'm like, oh, I get that. But I'm going to look past those things and take the story at face value for what they're presenting. And I really enjoyed it. Sitting here, I can't think of why I didn't continue on the series. I don't know. Because I really enjoyed it. So it's a really great sci-fi series. Again, Neil Shusterman writes characters that you care about from the get-go. I liked this book. All right, we're down to our last two. The next one on the top of the list, Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. I don't know where my other copy is, my less white copy. So I'll just hold it here because this is actually a super pretty cover. I love it. Can you see it there? You can kind of see it there. This is the British edition, so it comes in two of them. There's another one back there, but this is the one you get. I gave it 5 stars. This is a high fantasy world, and we're following 3 main characters. Gosh, this is a hard one to talk about because we don't want to give anything away. But they're in this world. One is the uncle to the king. One is like a lady, like a young lady, but like a lady, like Lord and Lady. And the last is a slave. And we're following all 3 of their stories. We kind of see how they intersect in certain ways, or how other characters that are surrounding them intersect in different ways. And what I think I loved so much about this book, why it was 5 stars, outside the fact the more main character of the 3, probably my favorite. Really liked him. I think it was just the character development and the growth of finding who you are and experiencing all the new things in their lives with them. Gosh, I don't even know how to talk about this. I probably need to have a video dedicated just to this, honestly. If you guys want that, let me know. My husband's read this book like 2 or 3 times, so if I did that, I would have him on the video with me because he knows more than me. I've read it once and I loved it, but it was a bit of a chore because I wasn't in the mood for fantasy last year, which is funny that the top 4 books I read were fantasy, yet I wasn't in the mood for fantasy, but I still loved it. I will continue that and be reading the next one this year, but I don't even know how to start talking about this book. High fantasy, magic systems, characters that are just epic. The whole book is epic, and this is only half of it. The last one, not my number 1, top 4, keep that in mind, is The Book of Life by Deborah Harkness, which is the 3rd book in the All Souls trilogy. 5 stars. Just loved this thing. I actually loved all 3 books, and I might have liked the 2nd book the best, but it's so hard to say because I really liked this one too. I loved how they wrapped everything up. I wouldn't say it was perfect, but I wouldn't think I'd like it if it was perfect, if that makes sense. This is in the Discovery of Witches, would be the 1st book in the series. So a world where we have witches, vampires, and demons, and a witch who doesn't really have control of her powers at all. She doesn't think she has any powers, is able to access a book of life, that all 3, the witches, the demons, and the vampires, would like to have their hands on for 3 different reasons. And she kind of has to discern, even though she doesn't know a lot about her magic or anything, what to do with it and how to proceed. And then she has a vampire who would like to help her, that she happens to be highly attracted to. And so that kind of complicates things a little bit. I loved this series and I loved this book. It was so great. So that was it. That was so overwhelming. Talking about so many books that I like, and I get so tongue-tied, I get so excited, and I just think, I can't explain why I like this. Just read the book, okay? I don't know if you guys get like that, but I do. I am going to cut this off because it's going way too long. So if you have read any of these books, please comment down below. Let me know which books you've read, if you like them or if you didn't like them. That's okay too. I'd still love to talk to you down in the comments. Feel free to like, subscribe, and oh, please comment down below with the best book or best four, you know, I'm flexible, that you read last year down in the comments. This is one of my favorite comments to get because I like to go and look at those and see if I've read those. And if I haven't, sometimes they make it onto my TBR. Not even kidding. A lot of them do, especially if they sound interesting to me because, well, I like to read books. I don't know if you knew that. And I'm open to new books. I don't read horror. So if that's your favorite one, you can skip over that and go to the next favorite. That's not horror because that's just not my genre of choice. But let me know your favorite book, graphic novel, whatever, down below. I'll check it out and we'll talk about it. Have an awesome, amazing, incredible day, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Goodbye.